Hello and welcome to CST Connect, the show that takes a look at some of the issues and events happening on and around the UDM campus. CST Connect is produced by students in CST 2100. I'm Brigid Mulroy. In tonight's episode, we take a close look at service learning and what it means to UDM and to the community. Service learning is one of the vital components of a Sisters of Mercy and Jesuit education. Joining us tonight to talk about how we do service learning is Mr. David Nantais, Director of the university's Institute of Leadership and Service. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
We just wanted to start out real quickly with a simple question where our audience members might not know what exactly is service learning.
Sure, I can start by talking about differentiating service learning from some of the other misconceptions about it. One thing that service learning is not is community service in a negative way. For example, sometimes people are punished by having to do community service, and certainly that's not what it's about. Another aspect would be volunteer work, where people, while you're not at school or at home or at your job, decide to do some type of work to help the community. That is great work, and service learning certainly does help people. The difference is that in service learning, the focus is on the learning, not necessarily the work. So service learning is a way in which students learn about course material outside of the classroom by doing community service. Oftentimes, the community service is with a population that is very different than what students in middle-class America are used to.
Mm-hmm.
People that have to go to soup kitchens to get their food. Kids that go to after-school programs in order to get tutored because they have underfunded school systems. So oftentimes students are encountering this situation for perhaps the very first time. And when we're in a situation where it's a very different one and we might be shocked by what we see, we tend to open up our senses a bit and take in a lot of information. So the idea for service learning is to take the experiences in the community working with people, bring them back to the classroom, and then reflecting on them, asking a lot of questions. A common question that I hear a lot is, why is it that these people have to have this service agency work with them to begin with? In other words, why are they constantly in need of something? What is the social status that keeps them in that way? So oftentimes students will come back to the class, ask these questions of their peers and of the professors, and then through that process of reflection, talking, experience, they learn a lot more about the course material. And that can vary from service learning courses in engineering to liberal arts and education, or even in the business school.
Mm-hmm. And so that's the real important thing when it comes down to it, is the fact that we're bringing it back to the classroom and we're learning through this. It's not just we go out and help and it's over. It's bringing it back and reflecting upon it and taking it kind of to the next level.
Right, exactly. All over America, especially in recent times when the financial crisis has hit, philanthropic giving has gone down a lot, but the number of volunteer hours has increased incredibly. And I think that's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful statement about our country that even though we're all feeling the pinch, a number of us feel like it's still vital to go out there and help people. The difference between that and service learning is exactly what you just put your finger on, which is that the experience doesn't just sit by itself, but then we bring it back to the classroom. Individuals reflect on it by themselves to say, how did this affect me? What are some of the questions and feelings that came up even? Sometimes in dealing with a situation like that, individuals realize that it calls forth from them certain characteristics that they didn't even realize were there within themselves. So you learn a lot about yourself, but you also learn about the course material. Whether you're learning about social work or anthropology or marketing or design and engineering, all those things can tie in with service learning.
And we're just wondering, why does this school feel such a need to do this service learning? Why is this school called to do service learning maybe over other schools?
Well, we have a great program and a long tradition here of service learning. I think that these days you would find service learning at a number of institutions of higher education throughout the world even. And they each have different reasons for doing it. Now, the reason specific to here goes back to the history of the university. It's interesting because I was a student here right when they were founding the school, when the two schools that made up UDM came together to merge. Okay. So the old U of D, which was founded by the Jesuit order, and the old Mercy College of Detroit were merging together to form a stronger Catholic presence in the city of Detroit at the time. And so the school, UDM, itself is only 20 years old. But the institutions that make it up have a long history of service to the community. I could start with this, the Sisters of Mercy, who founded Mercy College of Detroit. The Sisters of Mercy were founded by Catherine McAuley, and Catherine was a young woman in the 19th century, and she was in Ireland, and she noticed during the potato famine a number of people just literally starving in the streets. Catherine was lucky to come into some money through an inheritance, decided to open up a house she called the House of Mercy, and took in a lot of, especially women and children off of the street to care for their needs. So this was sort of the foundation or the seed of the Sisters of Mercy sort of motto of compassionate service to people in need. And it's through Catherine's example of her life and using what she had to help others that sort of spurred them on. And as you know now, there's a whole worldwide network of hospitals and schools that the Sisters of Mercy run. Mm-hmm. For the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits who founded the old U of D, they go back a little further to the mid-16th century, and Ignatius of Loyola, who was their founder. Mm-hmm. Ignatius was actually a very arrogant man from wealth, and so very different than Catherine in that sense. And he decided that he wanted to be a soldier and entered the Spanish army. And he's fighting in a battle against France, and a cannonball hits his leg and shatters it. So his career as a soldier is pretty much done for. He's carried back to his castle, his family's castle, and he sort of recuperates for a number of months in bed. And during that time, it's probably the first time in his life where he was able to just step back and reflect on what does life really mean, what are the most important things. And he realized that the people that he looked up to the most, who were his heroes, people he read about in books, for example, the old saints, St. Benedict or St. Augustine or St. Francis, all of these people gave their lives and what they had to other people in service. And so he decided, well, he's going to do the same type of thing. A similar aspect with Catherine is that he was also a charismatic person. And so there were other people that saw what he did and said, you know, I want to follow you and do what you're doing. And so that was basically how the Jesuit order started. And again, what started out as a very small movement, like in Catherine's instance, grew to a worldwide network of schools. So in the United States, we know of Georgetown or Boston College or Loyola as other Jesuit institutions, and they share the vision of Ignatius. So the reason that we care about service learning at UDM goes back to the vision and mission of these two people and what they cared about, you know, forming men and women who give their life for others and giving compassionate service to people in need. And so that in a nutshell is why we do it here at UDM.
Yeah, you draw a strong comparison to the tradition and the mission of our university, and so it really does tie in deeply with our mission, specifically our mission statement. Could you elaborate on that and the specifics of our mission statement and how service learning ties into that?
Sure. Well, one aspect of the mission statement is it talks about a number of different facets of the human person. So often